Hi, my name is Martin and I'm a specialist technical coach and mentor for open formula drivers. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about 2025 F1 Belgian Grand Prix from the perspective of the driver coach. So if you're interested in what my thoughts are, definitely keep watching. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I hope you're going well. Just before we talk about the race, there's a few loose ends that I want to tie off and clean up. Just as I've seen the qualifying lap and that sort of thing, I'm catching up on the videos and the telemetry. Let me give you an insight. Yes, I said Oscar lost a lot of time in the Fanya chicane on entry yesterday, and he also had a slide in Stablo, the corner after turn 14. Now, the context is that we saw that in the sprint qualifying, and I mentioned that, and it was a shame that Oscar didn't clean that up, you know? Every time you get like a little slide like that, it's feedback for you. It's essentially like, okay, this is the limitation, the rear is the limitation, and there's a reason for it, whether the way he combines the brakes or turns in or the line he takes or something to do with his setup, the weight distribution, could be anything, but you need to adjust for that. And that was my recommendation, was adjust for it, clean it up, because come main qualifying, you don't want to have that issue crop up again. So if you have to draw like a scale of oversteer or understeer, Oscar's on the oversteer side. So he needs to do certain things with the differential to try to clean that up, move it towards a neutral balance, or even go more towards understeer. So I think he was a long way off the mark. Let me show you what I said when I had a look and analyzed Oscar's sprint pole lap. And then let's have a look what happened in the main qualifying. It's a good car. So for Oscar, the solution there is diff mid. Mid is when you're not on the throttle or on the brake. It's that point just in the middle of the corner where you're waiting for the rotation, so you're going to nail the throttle. That's exit on throttle. And Lewis needs to use diff entry a lot more, but diff mid would have been the solution for Oscar. And he can definitely take that learning, like, and it's just one click of a switch between the Fanya chicane and the Stabilo corner to just tighten up the diff ever so slightly, because he was getting over rotation into that corner. So I know a lot of you guys were commenting what my thoughts on the pole lap were. So there they are. Yeah, so when I said he can definitely clean that up, I'm essentially saying, Oscar, you wanna clean that up. Let's have a look at what happened yesterday in the main qualifying session, the fight for pole between him and Lando Norris, and that slide was exactly the same what he got in Stabilo in main quali versus sprint quali. So here you can see it on the screen in front of you. Oscar on the right, you'll just notice got the snap in the middle, and that's when with the ghost car you see Lando start to pull ahead. Have a look at this. It's exactly the same spot and same mistake. And listen, guys, like, yeah, look, I do kind of come down harsh in a way, like on these drivers from time to time, but I'm also like, you can't be making the same mistake twice. How many times is Oscar going to go through that corner and have that slide in the mid corner? If we did a third qualifying again yesterday, would he get a slide in Stabilo? If we did a fourth qualifying on Monday, like, at which point is Oscar going to clean this up? And my philosophy is always like, mate, you got to get on. You're fighting for a championship, cuz you got to get onto it. So that's why I'm like, yeah. But look, there were mega laps. Oscar and Lando, they're phenomenal in that McLaren yesterday for quali. But these are the, you know, it was only, what was it, 0.05 or something, the gap 0.08. It's 800. There's only like a whisker between the two. And these things matter, right? I always say, in a sport told in tenths, no hundredths, no thousandths of a second, these things surely matter. Now, I also mentioned that off the line yesterday, Max's defensive posture from P2. And I was saying at that point, not really sure why Max needs to do that. Does he need to cut across? Was it worth it? I showed you guys the picture on the whiteboard. If I still have it, I'll just jump over and show you it now. So yeah, so it was this image here that I was talking to, and I was saying Max's defensive posture in red coming across. And I was like, oh, is it necessary? Potentially suggesting he needs to defend against Lando in P3. Turns out that's exactly the reason why Max was doing it. So I've gone back and done a bit of research. I had a look at 22, 23, 24, and these guys are under attack big time from P2. So that is the play. And yeah, I learned something out of that. Let's have a look at a few images now. So this is 2022 Max on the right-hand side. Again, shooting across, definitely, and you can even see Hamilton behind shooting across. These guys are fighting and competing for the inside, as you would ordinarily from pole, if that were the pole side of the grid. I also mentioned yesterday, Spa's very unique. Pole starting on the inside is very unique, not starting over on this side on the racing line. But yes, that is the play. And it makes sense. Like, I always recommend that for pole. Why wouldn't I be recommending it for a P2, P3 fight? So that was 2022. Have a look at 23. Perez like making a big beeline across here to try to crowd out Hamilton. I think Hamilton got up the inside of that. And so there can be an argument to say, well, it was too late anyway. But yeah, that's the second time I saw it. And then this is 2024, Perez as well, trying to come across and crowd out Hamilton. So very similar situations. And like I say, I learned something there. So it's always been my advice for the pole sitter to chop off, fight and compete for the inside, get to turn one first. And yeah, I guess now that's going to be my advice for all the way down the grid. P2 against P3, P3 against P4. It just goes to show fighting and competing for the inside is always worth it. Now, just after qualifying, we saw Kimi Antonelli in tears after his Q1 exit. And obviously he was out in sprint quali as well in Q1 as well. I'm not sure what to comment on that one. Like I'll say a few things. I found it really interesting. Firstly, I feel bad for him. Obviously you don't want to see anyone get to that point, but I'm just reflecting on it from a human psychology piece. I'm waiting for a message back from Philippe to comment. Philippe did the Mind and Machine F1 podcast with me on Wednesday, and he's the mental performance coach. I'm waiting to hear back from him as to maybe a solution or a reason or something. But from my own perspective, being in tears from a human psychology point of view means you're helpless. You're at the point where you don't know what to do and you're crying at that point. And so it feels like you've tried everything and nothing's working. And that's when the tears come. Again, it's a shame. I feel sorry for him, but it is also like a cry for help. I always pull it back to the like what I always say, mental is downstream of technical. And to clean up technical, who were the driver coaches and mentors to help nurture Kimi's talent? There's a mad piece actually on the Sky Sports F1 intro. And it was like, I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was like nature, nurture, and a perfect storm is when they both collide. You get the perfect storm. 100% agree with that. So it's like, and I felt like the F1's been a bit like this for a while. Like they're searching for talent and they have no way of nurturing them, because it's all under the umbrella heading of these guys are the best in the world and they should, they're the best drivers in the world. And at the end of the day, they're humans, guys. They need help. Like a tennis player needs a tennis coach, like a swimming player needs a swimming player, like a swimmer needs a swimming coach. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just, and F1's always been under that umbrella heading of these guys are just untouchable superhumans. We can never teach them anything. And now it's come to the point where Antonelli's in tears. If that is not like evidence that he needs help, I'm not sure what else is. I just want to elaborate on my point that anything mental is downstream of technical. So like what happens is you come in with confidence, like say Lawson into Red Bull, for example. Technically you struggle, and then you've got all the other stuff or mental stuff on the side, like self-confidence goes away. You're not sure, you're overthinking, you know what I mean? You go into this negative spiral that I think maybe Lewis entered in 2022, 23, 24, and he's in now, all because of the technical stuff, because you've got to resolve for that. Once you're driving the car nicely, then the confidence comes, and then you drive it even better, and then you're more confident and you're going in an upward trajectory. Whereas I feel like once you're struggling technically, you're on a downward trajectory, and that can happen as well. And that's what we're probably seeing with Kimi as well. I hate to say it, but that's the reality of the situation. Okay, let's talk about the race start. Obviously, we got underway under the safety car in the first instance. I think that was the right call. Send the cars out, have a look around, clean up a little bit of water. We had a 10 or 15 minute break of rain, so no rain at that point before the next heavy rain was due. I align 100% with Max, Brundle. I'm old school, man, and these guys are like cut out for that. That's what they train for. That's what they're built for. That's where the opportunities are. These are the things you dream of as a kid, like getting the opportunity in the rain to do like what Hulkenberg did in Silverstone. Beautiful story to get a podium. And so I feel like in that situation, let the cars go around, clean the track up. They're essentially water cleaning machines, those things. When it's not raining, let them go around maybe 2, 3, 4 laps under the safety car. Track looks all right, bang, park them on the grid, rolling start, away you go. So like, I think it was a wrong decision to red flag it. Then the rain comes, we've got delays, and then it's like every time F1 get an opportunity to show the world how cool the sport can be and how dramatic, and yeah, there'll be spins, there might be a crash, there might be an accident like that. I get it, and it's very hard to balance safety with entertainment, because if it's a dry race, McLaren are going to walk off, no one will tune in, no one cares about the sport. If it's a wet race, you get all the chaos and drama and crashes and spins and this and that, and it becomes a mad sport again. So it's hard to find that balance. I understand Spa is dangerous in the wet, and so I'm trying to manage that by saying give them 2, 3, 4 laps under the safety car, clean up some of that water, remove some of it, get it in the air, get it out of the track, get it off the pitch, you know, and then give them a standing start where hopefully, you know, look, visibility is never going to be perfect. It's raining. It's just part of, I feel like it's also part of the sport as well. So again, my standpoint is, call me old fashioned or old school, but it's like, get them going. These guys train for this. They're apparently the best in the world. Let's get them out there, you know, let's see what's going on. So I read a quote, actually, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was from Kobe. I can't remember, but it was like something to do with weather and preparation. Like I can't remember the quote. It was like, only those people who fear the weather are the underprepared, something like that. I can't remember. It's true, you know? And even Max on the radio was like, let's take this opportunity to clean the track up. Anyway, I think we were robbed of a bit of entertainment in that phase of the race. Now, look, I think we also missed another opportunity to get a standing start when we finally got going. Cars went out, you know, cleaned the water like what they should have done before. And then it was like starting to even look dry. And I thought, surely standing start. Standing start is another opportunity to just shuffle the deck one more time and just see, like, you know, it's just going to throw things up in the mix a little bit more. I think with a rolling start, there is the potential for it to be a little bit more status quo, but I think Lando blew the blew the rolling start as well. Let me just refer you guys back to the live stream and I'll show you what I said in the live stream. And then I'm going to also talk to the turn one line. And I think there was a few places there where Lando made some mistakes. Let's have a look at the live stream now. Now, in terms of restarts, I was thinking about this today as well. And I thought, you know, it's interesting because you've got this massive straight from which to control the restart. Like, let's say, for example, you're over here and our safety car in orange, for example, is, you know, cruising along and starting to come into the pit lane. You're over in the purple dot over here. You've got plenty of time from which to control a restart. You could zigzag potentially and then, you know, drive and accelerate into the final chicane. Personally, I wouldn't do that. What I would do is I would be the first driver to get the steering wheel straight and accelerate onto the pit straight. That's the one I would take. Because if you go and break into the final chicane, that counts as you having gone at that point. And so the other driver can follow you closely through the final chicane and you may be under attack down the pit straight with that sort of thing. But I think, remember, you're the first driver to see the pit straight. If you're leading, you come through here, you're the first driver to open the steering wheel and accelerate out of there. So there's nothing the other driver can do, because if I zoom in, if you're the first driver to see the pit straight and accelerate, your P2 driver is still here. They can't go until they actually turn and then they go. So you're always going to pull a few car lengths down the pit straight. So that would be my recommendation to kick off the race on the start finish straight if you are the lead car under a safety car situation. So there you go, guys. That was my recommendation, and Lando did exactly the opposite. Oh, come on, Lando. I think he went down the back straight, and it's so much easier for Oscar to react down the back straight. I'll just jump over to the whiteboard quickly and show you what I'm talking about. So if Lando kicks the race off around here, it's very easy for Oscar to see and just react to and go, and he can be close down into the braking into the bus stop chicane. Whereas if Lando went down the pit straight, it's actually hard to get the steering wheel straight and actually react and keep up with that situation. So I think that was the first mistake. Now, the second mistake was, I think, the wrong engine mode. I'll go back to the whiteboard again. I think what Lando was doing was deploying battery through this area here when the race is not underway. And that's why Oscar was able to close up so much down the pit straight, because Oscar started deploying battery down the pit straight. That means that then, yeah, Oscar's got a little bit more battery to run on the Kemmel straight. That was Lando's second mistake. His third mistake was his line into turn one. We spoke about this in the live stream as well, and I said the line into turn one is George Russell's line. Let me bring it up on the screen in front of you now. Yeah, so it was this image here that I showed you guys, and I said Lewis and Max going more like around the wet line, the V style, and George, who had that purple sector one that year, found a lot of time braking on the inside, mid-track or even slightly more, and just turning into turn one nicely. That was the way to go. Now, funnily enough, George learnt this little trick off Lando. So I'm not sure what Lando was doing into turn one. Let's have a look at what he did. I think he went too wide into turn one and then on the rubber, and then didn't get good traction as well. Let's have a look at that together now. Yeah, so here you go. As you can see them coming across the pit straight. Oscar's got battery at this point. He's deploying, and then he pulls to the inside and finds lovely braking grip up the inside here. And Lando, just because he's more on the rubber at this point, there's that little slide on the exit as well. So there's a few mistakes already up to this point. I think where Lando kicked off the restart was a mistake. I think his battery setting for the restart was a mistake. And I think his line into turn one was a mistake as well. And that meant that Oscar Piastri could get the lead up the Kemmel Straight into turn five. Again, guys, the preparation piece, that's why I do the Thursday live streams, is to fill you in on if this happens, what do we do? You know, it's just, you've got to be that 2 or 3 steps ahead, because when you're in the heat of battle, in the moment, you can't, it's very hard for you to be able to problem solve and say, where is the right place? You need to look at the track map with a clear mind on a Thursday like we do to be able to walk through it. When you're under pressure, like I say, in the heat of battle, you want to refer back to your homework. What homework is what probably we're saying with Lando. He didn't do the homework clearly and got swallowed down the pit straight. A shame for Lando, because I think that in Melbourne in the wet and in Silverstone in the wet, it was the opposite. Lando was amazing in Melbourne in the wet, no mistakes in very challenging conditions. And in Silverstone, it was Oscar who made the mistake under the safety car. So this time it was Lando's turn for a couple of mistakes this race. And that's just the up and downs of the championship. I think this one will be one on who can minimize those mistakes and just have consistency to the end of the season. I think Lando made another mistake by staying out another lap. So we're talking about 3 or 4 mistakes already from Lando. Staying out another lap was not the right call. The track was dry. He lost a lot of time in that phase. There was a lot of time for them to be able to double stack. I think they had 10 seconds to Leclerc at that point. A 3-second stop and a 3-second stop is 6 seconds. So you're going to come out fine. You're not, there's going to be no problem with traffic or that sort of thing. So he should have double stacked. But I think he made up for that mistake by putting on the hard compound tire. Now I need to give a shout out to Will at this point, because it was a good piece of radio. He just said to Lando, look, mate, we've got a hard compound tire. It's available if you want it. And he was suggesting with his tone that maybe you want to jump on it. It seems like a viable option. And then Lando said, yeah, I'll take that. That sounds good. So whether or not the time, they had an extra lap to think about their decision, whereas Oscar's seemed like, I'm coming in and just give me a medium and we'll go. So I think that was, I don't know whether that was on purpose or not, to be able to take an extra lap to think about their decision. Maybe not, but it was a good piece of radio from Will. I always come down pretty hard on Will, Lando's race engineer, but this was a good one. He just said, it's here if you want it and it's up to you. And, and then Lando said, yes, that was a good call. I think that decision for Lando had made up for all of his other mistakes. I think it neutralized everything. The safety car mistake, when to go, the battery mistake, staying out one lap, all that stuff. By making the correct call on the hard, I think it was game on. I think it was race on. And I was looking at this from Oscar Piastri's point of view thinking, oh, geez, that's a good call from Lando. What do you do now if you're Oscar? Your options are push, bolt, use the tires, use up all of the available grip, and then commit yourself to a 2-stop. Or just baby those tires and stay out and try to make it to the end. As I was thinking it just instinctively, I was like, you've got to bolt, man. Your only hope is to bolt, use the grip, use the tires, and then commit to the 2-stop. Because I think if Lando had just done a clean stint on that hard compound tire, yeah, Oscar would have been seriously under attack at the end of it. Turns out Lando's second stint was just marked with mistakes after mistakes after mistakes again. So I think, like I said, putting the hard back on was a good call and reset his race, but then more mistakes. So the day was just stacked with mistakes. So what are we talking about? We're talking about a slide in the middle of Puon on lap 26. And we're talking about 2 lockups at turn 1 as well. One they showed a replay of on lap 34. Maybe it was lap 33. And another one just towards the end of the race, lap 43. The Puon one kind of like let him off for that one. It was just in the mid corner, the car just let go. But the lockups at turn 1 that happened twice, yeah, surely Lando can amend and iterate for that. We spoke about Oscar cleaning up the stabilo. If it happens once, okay, front braking grip is a limitation. Go backwards on the brake balance a click or two, brake nice and soft into there, pull back with the gears nice and hard into there, lift the engine braking a little bit. There's a lot of changes you can do. So to see Lando lock up a second time on lap 43, it was just a mistake-a-thon from Lando Norris tonight, unfortunately. And yeah, like I say, they're strange because in Melbourne he was pretty good, but they're humans in the car. They have their off days, they have their on days as well. But like I said, limiting those off days is going to be key for the championship. Now, for me, it was insightful at the end of the race when they parked up in Parc Ferme. Lando got out of the car, Oscar got out of the car pretty much the same time because they were very close, finished very close. And Lando had an opportunity to go over to Oscar and shake his hand and say congrats and good job. He didn't. He walked over to the hat drink bottle thing area, that little stand that they have in front of them. For me, that was telling. I don't know, like, yeah, it was insightful for me. It was kind of like he's annoyed, firstly. He's not happy, understandably, had a bad race. Doesn't want to congratulate Oscar. Yeah, I think it just shows that there is a kind of course, they're friends and they're teammates, and I think they get along well, but I think there is an underlying kind of competition there that is going to, yeah, is going to intensify as the season goes on. Yeah, I thought it was insightful because everything I've seen up to this point has been very, very cordial, like a very fair relationship between the two of them. And I just thought at that point, well, yeah, Lando could have gone over and just said, yeah, good job. And that would have been it. But he didn't go and see him. In the end, they ended up seeing each other, of course, and shook hands. But I just thought, yeah, I don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. Is this a nothing, nothing situation? Or is there a little insight there that, yeah, maybe there was something going on underneath that I'm not sure about. Wanted to talk to you guys about the first stint of the race and Lewis Hamilton. Again, on the Thursday live stream, I'm like, searching for water is going to be key, and looking after your rear tires is going to be key. Who did that really, really, really well in the first stint? Lewis Hamilton. I thought he had a blinder of a race. He was absolutely on fire. So some really nice driving, really good technique. So he was braking off the rubber, making a conscious effort to do so. And he was also really searching for water in parts of the track that other drivers weren't either, namely just on the entries, just being that, and Lewis, the tight line driver, right? Just being that step inside, breaking off the rubber. I'll show you guys a few examples now. So firstly, this is what we spotted in the live stream, and I spoke about the different lines on the entry to turn 8, long corner constant radius. And I said, look at Lewis here on the mid track on the inside, and look at George here. And I was kind of suggesting, like, I don't know which is right at this point. It's hard for me to tell, but I would definitely be trying both and trying to work it out. Turns out Lewis was probably the way to go, but in this long corner constant radius, there is a case for the short corner as well. But anyway, I just refer you back to this because the live stream, the preparation, right? And there's nothing different when we look at what happened here today. Here's a shot of Lewis, exact same corner, where you can see other drivers behind. I think this is Colapinto and Sainz behind. Lewis on the run down to turn 8, again, making a conscious effort to search for the water. He really darted across here when we saw this. And B, braking on the inside as well, finding the braking grip. So he was just driving beautifully. In addition to those two techniques, yeah, he was just introducing the car beautifully to the brake pedal, using the gears nicely, turning in very gently as well. And so both of those things were correct. And then even the way he was just introducing the throttle on exit, he was very conscious and aware to not break traction with the rears and then just short shift and just massage the car nicely out of the corner. So beautiful driving by Lewis. And I think when he got Pierre Gasly on the exit of the Fagnes chicane, it just showed how in nick and in good condition he kept his rear tires. I think that was the key. And that's what I said in the live stream. Looking after the rears is going to be key. And the way you do that is traction management, throttle shape, short shifting, gentle throttle introduction, get the steering wheel nice and straight on the exit. So it's nice to see some good driving. Class by Lewis. Now, I'm not sure whether he opted for a wet setup. I'm not sure what changes he made. Was it more downforce? Was it softer springs or damping cambers? I'm not sure what he did to the car, but it seemed to me like he had a lot more speed in the wet. And then even in the initial phases of when they just switched over to dry, Hamilton made the very early call to switch over to dry. So good strategy as well. He caught Alex Albon really quickly, but then he dropped off a lot from Alex, but then he caught him quickly again. So I'm not sure whether he had a wet setup or whether this was like a Lewis masterclass. If I had to have a stab, I'd say it was Lewis masterclass. He was just driving beautifully out there. A shame for him that at one point in the race, he was doing a lot of lift and coast into the final chicane. Presumably this was for fuel saving. Probably they thought it was going to be a full wet race and therefore they don't need too much fuel. But then, we had all that mess up with the start and it ended up being dry after 25% of the race. So then they're running most of the race dry. So maybe they didn't put as much fuel as what they predicted, given that it should have been more wet running than what there was. So maybe that was the reason for all the lift and coast, was just to manage the fuel. So that meant that his attack was compromised in a way. And so that's the best position he could finish. Looking ahead, guys, we've got the Hungarian GP in a couple of weeks and a nice break as well. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll try to do a live stream, Mind and Machine podcast again. Yeah, I don't know, take a break myself as well. Let me know what you guys are going to do in the break. Then we've got the Hungary live stream coming up the Thursday of that race weekend. A really cool track stacked with long corners of constant radius. So similar to what we have in Brussels Turn 8 here. A lot of those corners, a lot of opportunity for tight line and short corners there as well. I think this is where we're going to see Max's weakness potentially crop up. So just, park that one in your pocket. We'll just see what happens that weekend. But I think Max drags the front tires around such a corner for a long time. So I like to see early entries or short corners, and you've just got to set your car. You've got to pick one and just run with it. Lately, I've been a fan of the tight line into such a corner. I think that's the way to go. So I'll be looking out for that. I'll be talking about that in the live stream as well. Yeah, thanks for this weekend. Thank you for your comments. If you had a thought or question, or you just wanted to help the channel promote the video, drop it in the comments section for me below. And yeah, I'll catch up with you guys shortly. Have a good break. Cheers.